We're reaching the end of Labor Day, and then I received this insane email from my friend Ernesto Alvarez. I appreciate this, and we've got to act on this immediately. So if you're driving in the Pennsylvania market, I just showed a picture of this beautiful little child here. Child's name is Nalani Johnson. Keep all your eyes and ears open. If you hear anything, if you see anything, call 911 right away. This little child has been abducted. The story is so bizarre, so crazy. I'm going to give you the details of the story in a few minutes. We're going to read it. But Ernesto writes this to me, and it's literally just happened right now, right? That he said Kevin and Torsten, obviously he's reaching out to Kevin Aptreneur as well, so he must have emailed him. And he says, I'm sending this to you. Please, please, please raise awareness. This madness needs to stop. Laws need to be created nationwide to stop this activity. All these idiots picking up minors. It was bound to happen, and now it has. A toddler is now missing, supposedly was sold, right? And a piece of shit rideshare driver is involved. We have warned the public. We have warned legislators. It was going to happen. This needs to end. It's too early to say whether the father sold the toddler, as the driver claims, or the driver was the seller. Either way, had these idiots followed protocol, this would have never happened under any of our platforms. And he's right in saying this, right? So I want to jump straight into the story. This is the picture of the lady, of the driver. This is an Uber driver, so another piece of bad publicity for Uber in the same week, right? The driver's name is Sharina Nancy, and here comes the story. It's so crazy and bizarre, my friends, I can't even wrap my brain around it, but because it does involve a child, and that child is missing right now, we can act right now, so we've got to get this out. All the YouTubers need to get this out ASAP, right this very minute, right? A woman is in custody and a toddler is missing from Penn Hills, Pennsylvania. If you're in that market, if you're driving in Penn Hills, Pennsylvania, keep eyes and ears open, my friends. After the child's father said a rideshare driver abducted his daughter on Saturday evening, according to police documents and a news release, right? So there's conflicting stories here. I'm going to read it to you as the press is reporting it. Paul Johnson said he was riding in a car with Lyft and Uber stickers with his daughter and a friend, according to a criminal complaint filed by the Allegheny County Police. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Johnson said that when he got out of the car and went to get his daughter out of the car seat, the driver drove away with the toddler, the complaint said. That's the complaint he filed, right? The complaint didn't identify the child, but a police news release said she is named Nalani. And that's the cute little button right there. So look out for this little face, right? Johnson told detectives he tried calling the driver's cell phone. Exactly, Jane Nella Henry. I agree. Like, what? Can this be true? So we got to rally all the drivers. We got to be on the lookout. We got to assist authorities. We got to assist police in bringing this cute little child back home to her parents, right? So Johnson told detectives he tried calling the driver's cell phone multiple times, but she never picked up. So he called 911 around 5 p.m. Eastern time. So if it's true that he's made these multiple calls right after he got out the car and the trip maybe ended, and he was trying to get his daughter out, and this driver that he alleges took off with his daughter. If there are 911 calls to back this up, his story automatically has a lot more credibility, right? It's still very, very bizarre. So police arrested driver Sharina Nancy, she's 25, right, in the vehicle during a traffic stop around 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, but did not find the child inside, the complaint said, right? So he calls at 5. The police blockade stops her at 7:30 p.m. The child's not in the car, right? And this is where it gets crazy. According to the complaint, Nancy told detectives that Johnson, her dad, sold the child to an individual for $10,000 and asked her to complete the drop-off. Okay, let's stop there for a second. So if she knows this, right, and performs this duty, she's guilty as guilty can be, right? She obviously had a chance to say, no, absolutely not. I will not do that. I'm calling the police right now. I'm calling 911. You are crazy. But she doesn't, right? Yeah. Oh my God. This is sad. And I was on my way to bed and I just got an email. So got to jump on this, guys. Get it out. Get the story out. Share, share, share. Time is crucial, right? We're on the West Coast. It's past 11 o'clock. I guess in other areas right there on the East Coast, it's already past 1 a.m. My guess is many people are asleep, but the people that are awake need to act right now. Be on the lookout, right? Be on the lookout. Anything that looks suspicious. If you see this little sweet kid's face, please call police and authorities right away. So Nancy said, this is the driver, right? Nancy said he showed her a photo of a black woman she was supposed to meet and asked her to drive the toddler 20 minutes from a gas station in Monroeville along US Route 22 to meet the woman, the complaint says. So again, if you're in those areas, please be on the lookout. Paymanali, Gary Kubeta, get the story out. Let's circulate the story. Let's find this little child. Okay, here's story continues. This is the driver's face, right? This is the driver where the father says she abducted his child and she claims the child was sold for $10,000. This is crazy, folks. Nancy told detectives she encountered a silver SUV with out-of-state plates parked on the side of the road and did as she had been instructed. She did as she had been instructed. She took this little kid to this car and passed this child over. I mean, let's take a step back here. Is the father in on this? Did the father coordinate this with this Uber driver? Or is the driver guilty as can be, took the child and sold the child and is covering up? Trying to get to the bottom of this, right? So I'm sure we'll know more tomorrow. But because time, this just broke, right? This just broke. Yeah, Tim Odom, this is sick. And this is what happens when parents put their minors or toddlers in cars. This shit was bound to happen, just like that crazy pool story a few days ago where one of the pool passengers got killed. You know, Uber or Lyft, have you done a background check on her? Uber or Lyft, have you done a background check on this passenger Johnson, the father? Have you checked their criminal records? Right? No, you haven't, because you don't run background checks on passengers, right? Now, one would really have to see Does this lady have any tainted past, tainted history, right? She's the driver. And she's the one that the father says abducted her child. The way she's spinning it is like, okay, the kid was sold for $10,000. I just participated in this and completed the drop-off. What? What? You completed the drop-off of this little child? 3 years old? Jail time. Shocking, because I have kids and this hits me in the chest, my friends. She is passing the toddler and the car seat over to the woman standing next to the car and then driving off. Hey, I've just delivered this little toddler to you. I don't know who's getting money. I don't know who's getting this $10,000, but here's the car seat. Here's the little toddler. Off you go. Nancy told police she also saw a second woman inside the SUV. I mean, who do you believe here, right? Nancy said she then drove around, smoked cigarettes, and talked on the phone with her husband, the complaint said. Nancy, who was being held without bail at the Allegheny County Jail, was arraigned on Monday after being charged with kidnapping of a minor, interference with custody of children, and concealment of whereabouts of a child. Her preliminary hearing is scheduled for September the 16th. CNN was unable to identify or reach an attorney for Nancy. Nalani's grandmother, the little child's grandmother, her name's Taji Walsh, told CNN affiliate KDKA that Nancy's account of the events is not true. Her son, whom she calls PJ, this Johnson guy, is Nalani's father. If the police felt that PJ was in any way involved, he wouldn't be walking freely. He'd be locked somewhere up like she is. Right? So that's a true statement, right? The police must know something that we probably don't know yet, right? Because this father would also automatically be jailed until the truth comes out, right? But he's walking out there freely. He has his version of the story. Dustin, I'm with you. Dude, this could be your child or my child, but we're not that effing stupid to put our kids with some random driver, right? Uber or Lyft driver as a minor and setting this disastrous scenario up. This pisses me off. And Dustin jump right on and make a live video on this, right? I'm going to post the link underneath. Whoever wants to pick up the story, whoever has a YouTube channel, time is of essence. Grab the story, run with it, publish it. Maybe someone sees it, watches it, sees a video, picks it up, sees this little angel, and brings her angel home safely, right? I pray nothing happened to this little child. This little kid is 3 years old. The police press release said Nalani is 2 years old, but the website for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, Missing Kids, said she's 23 months old with her second birthday on September 15. She's about 3 feet tall and weighs about 30 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes, according to missingkids.org. So I'm sure if you go on to missingkids.org, missingkids.org, that story is highlighted there, and we can gather even more information and maybe better pictures, right? Representatives of Uber did not immediately respond to CNN for comment. I'm not surprised. I am not surprised that Uber has taken a position here. They haven't. They've remained silent. Dana Davis, a communications manager for Lyft, told CNN that while this incident did not happen on Lyft's platform, they have banned Nancy from driving with Lyft, adding that the allegations were deeply disturbing. Now, what's also a little bit disturbing to me is that the communications manager makes a story of this and says, you know what, we're not involved. We've banned her. Okay, obviously banning her is the right thing to do, but are you trying to get a little bit of publicity out of this? If you are, you're a sick individual, Dana Davis, right? If she was approached and she had to comment on this, obviously, I think what she should have said right out is like, whatever we can do, we got to find this child. Don't turn this into, oh, we're not to blame. It wasn't our platform. These are her opening words. She's more concerned about her effing platform, about the Lyft image instead of the child, right? If you are asked, your natural reaction is to be, we're going to get a word out to every driver right now, and we're going to try and help find this child. It's irrelevant which platform this happened on, Dana Davis. The bottom line is that you are not patrolling or controlling this issue of minors, and this had to happen. And a few days ago, your idiotic pool platform killed an innocent passenger. And the problem is that the reform, the safety, is not where these idiots are spending the money, right? They are more concerned in putting $90 million into a war fund to fight AB5 in California, whereby the number one priority should be tighten up safety, tighten up security, so no minor is harmed, no minor gets in the car, no passenger, no driver, no nothing is hurt, assaulted, raped, killed. If you are not putting all your efforts around that, you have the weakest leaders in both companies, right? Why do communication managers have to step up after this happens, after that happens? Why are you not doing something about this, Uber and Lyft? Safety, safety, safety. I see the link. I'm gonna try and get you the link right now, Dustin. So we don't waste time. Just want to get this link to Dustin so he can get a live stream going. I know that Dustin has kids and he immediately also reports on issues like this, which, if we can make a difference, if we can reach our base, if we can alert drivers out there, it is our duty as YouTubers, it is our duty as drivers out there on the street right now in Pennsylvania to keep our eyes and ears open for this SUV that they've described or that I've described to you, for this little girl. I think it's more important to put the focus on this little, not this idiotic driver here, but this little one. Let's just let this sink in. Take a picture of this, folks. Let me shoot this to Dustin right now. Dustin, can you text me quickly? I have one of my other phones, and I don't think I have your details on this phone. I usually call you on the other phone. Would you mind texting me quickly so that I can send you the link? I'm sure you're on top of this already. Hang on 1 second. I know I have it here somewhere. I'll get that over to you ASAP. Yeah. Edgar says, Dana, how do you sleep at night? It's a valid question. Gary Cabetta says, Dara could care two shits. Like, Dara has to seriously be the most cold-hearted executive I've come across. He just looks like he has this blank face, no personality, no shame, and would literally sell his grandmother to some syndicate, right? That is just the character he strikes me as. It's like no heart, no soul. If I look at the guy's eyes, I don't see any heart. I don't see any soul there, right? I mean, if you have this ruthless shareholder base who's out to make billions, I guess you have to have someone like him, right, who doesn't care a shit. Probably goes to bed, puts his head down on the pillow and sleeps well. Doesn't even think about this, right? I mean, they're not even commenting on this little girl. It just shows their true colors, right? Jonathan, you can say that again. Nancy's giving us a bad name. I mean, this woman admits she participated and dropped off the kid. I mean, she is as guilty could be. I want to know if the father did indeed immediately jump on 911, make call after call and say, listen, this driver abducted my child. I need help, right? His little angel is missing right now. We got to get her back. And please, if you are the people that picked up this little girl, you know what? Think about the child. Drive to the closest police station, turn yourself in and say, here's the kid. Just return this child alive, please, right? Healthy and alive. This little kid is so confused, so scared. He's 2 years old. Do the right thing. If you abducted this child, do the right thing, right? Everyone is on the lookout for this little kid right now. Just go and do the right thing. Go and turn yourself in, hand the child back to the authorities and let them handle this. But don't do anything weird or crazy to this child. It's not worth the $10,000 you got or paid. Be human. Do the right thing. And folks, it's got to be a lesson to us. Most of all, it has to be a lesson to Uber and Lyft that they need to dig in their pockets. Instead of spending $90 million on AB5, spend $90 million on security and safety. Dara, take your $40 to $50 million salary and say, hey, you know what? I want to do the right thing for mankind, for every driver, for every passenger. I would like to donate my salary towards tightening up safety and security. We will do anything and everything in our power to tighten up security and safety and start with background checks on passengers yesterday. It's the only right language here, folks. April M says, did the parent willingly put the kid in the car by herself? If so, who does that? The father claims, and I hope I got the story straight, the father's name is Johnson, claims he was in the car with a child, and then when he tried to get the kid out of the seat, the driver, Nancy, took off. He then, at 5 p.m., started placing 911 calls, right? The driver, Nancy, was stopped 2.5 hours later, East Coast time. Joel Furman, hello, how are you? How come I never see you speaking of what's going on in New York with Uber, Lyft, and Juno? You know, it's a good question. I think I've shared enough on Juno. Juno is a complete scam. I mean, they literally took all the data and sold it to Jet, G-H-E-T-T. Juno lied to and misled hundreds of thousands of drivers. So they may be surviving in New York, but they're not going anywhere. They're not taking off. They haven't grown. They have not expanded in all those years. So I've reported on that. I don't know why you say I don't talk about that now. As far as the Uber and Lyft scenario in New York, we know what's happening there. You know what's happening there, Joel. And that's not the story of the evening. What you should be asking is, hey, what can I do in my power, myself, Joel Furman, in trying to help bring this little girl back? You know, that, my friend, is the more important topic in this room today. That's where every one of you should focus and say, hey, can I make a video? Can I circulate this video? Who can I email to be on the lookout for this little sweet little angel? That's the topic right here, right now. This is a matter of life and death for a little 2-year-old, right? So I'm not even interested in talking about New York right now. Does anyone want to comment on this? Should we wrap it up? Let's see. Take a good look. Just take a mental picture of this little one. If you see her, if you see a child seat being passed from car to car, being taken out of a car with a little child that looks like that, immediately call 911, right? That's where our focus should be. That's where the focus of every Pennsylvania driver who wakes up this morning, right? It's already Tuesday morning there on the East Coast. We're just about to wrap up Labor Day on the West Coast, and we're trying to get the word out. Payment Ali, this is a police matter. Blaming Uber for this is not going to work. But yeah, when you don't regulate the drivers, you end up getting criminal drivers like this one. So indirectly, they deserve some, I guess you want to say, blame. I'm not going to entirely agree with you on this, Payman Ali. I think Uber has to step up. I mean, to not go out and say, okay, this is Uber's fault. Uber has not tightened up the regulations and controlled this minor issue. So a few days ago, I believe they are directly to blame for that pool incident, right? The one pool passenger that got killed on the Uber platform, the driver that got killed. And now we have a minor issue. Both of these issues are very, very well known to Uber and Lyft. Have they done everything in their capacity and power to tighten up these laws, to tighten up the security, to tighten up the safety for passengers, for drivers? No, they haven't. So quite a big part of the blame here, Payman, has to be put on Uber and Lyft, right? Has to be put on this driver. Is there anything out of the ordinary on her background check, for example, that Uber could have been aware of? We don't know. Dara K is fast asleep right now. 100% right, Gary. So not fighting you on this one, Payment Ali. I regard you as a friend. I'm just saying they can do so much more. I'm always open to a different perspective. So I will gladly, I respect you. I like you. I will listen to your perspective on that, right? And others are willing to chime in. You know, that's what a live feed is. Everybody gets to read everyone's post. I might not agree with a certain individual in this room right now. You got Eddie Lepest who says, this is sad. This is how I feel too. I think this is sad, right? This is how I feel. I share that same feeling right now, right? My heart goes out, like, whether the father is to blame or not to blame here. But the bottom line is there's a little kid missing and needs to be returned. So Payman Ali, here he goes, says, look at it this way. Everyone is trying to blame Uber for so many things. That is true. That is true. But a lot of that blame, Payman, I think is valid. Because when you're taking in money, right, and you're cutting wages, you're cutting salaries, you're cutting miles, you're cutting minutes, it's taking. You are spending $200,000 in balloons. You're spending $90 million on fighting AB5. You've got to say to yourself, if you look at the big picture, pretty clear what Uber and Lyft's intentions are, right? And then the public needs to know this, right? The passenger needs to know that Uber is fighting the driver on this AB5, that Uber has not tightened up the laws or done random checks on minors or send groups and groups of investigators out into different cities and found out who is driving minors, who isn't, right? They're not doing anything about this. Are they spending or showing us through the press that they are spending money on safety security? No. Priorities are totally effed up and wrong. And so there's multiple parties that have a role in this, right? Absolutely right. I agree with you. But overall, the cancer, the disease, the virus starts within the company, right? They have many opportunities to make many wrongs right. They haven't, right? Still today, we are asking for background checks on passengers, safety features, security features in the app. It's not there. You're not willing to spend a cent there, but you're willing to spend $90 million to fight workers in court, in the system, pay politicians, play the game so that you can keep drivers right where they are in that current status. No rights, no benefits, poor pay. I think they've made their intentions clear. That's all I have to say on that. James Han, Darren, I have no clue how Dara has lasted this long. I have no clue. I mean, you're talking about damaging the brand. I think Dara is doing a fantastic job on damaging the brand and giving the rideshare industry a bad name, right? So I completely agree with you, James, that he should be running around the Uber headquarters with a clown mask on, right? Wearing a clown mask, because in my eyes, he is a clown. He's not a leader. For sure, not a leader. Not showing any leadership qualities. So many moments for the CEO to rise to the occasion and step up. Never has. Has time and time again failed to show leadership. the world is indeed brutal and sickening if you read stories like this. In my eyes, he's not a leader. So Payman says, as long as we have a service called Uber, we are stakeholders. So we are part of this problem. That's an interesting statement, Payman. I would agree we are part of the problem if we're driving around minors. I agree we are part of the problem if we are a Nancy who delivers a child knowing the father either dropped off or she took off. Yeah, if you are an Uber driver with the name of Nancy, then you are a stakeholder in this problem. But there are 99.9% of drivers out there that have good intentions, right? Maybe that 0.01% has bad intentions. So again, that's not a statement that I agree with, that we're part of the problem. We are certainly highlighting the problems. We are creating awareness what the problems are. The question is, are Uber and Lyft fixing the problems? Are Uber and Lyft paying attention to safety of drivers, safety of passengers? Are they doing anything, spending any money to fix that issue, right? Are they doing anything or spending any money to make sure that this pool issue of the driver and a passenger being killed, like you said, many people have said, you could have 2 pool passengers in your car from rival gangs. Problem waiting to happen. It was bound to happen. Worst case scenario happened. One of the 2 passengers, pool passengers, plus the driver got killed. Now you have another scenario that has not been fixed, but that has been brought to Uber and Lyft's attention time and time and time again by the Torstens, by the Dustins, by the YouTubers, by many, many people, that carting minors around will, create major problems, especially if these background checks are not tight. That's why these services like Zoom or Hop, Skip, and Drive, driving kids around, are rising, because there is a far more vigorous background check, selection interviews that take place that close down the possibilities of problems happening, right? These services are designed to cart children around. Uber and Lyft don't have any control mechanisms in place to stop accidents like this. I agree with you, Payman. We need to make Uber safer. We need to help Uber become safer. On that statement, I think we have done everything in our power to try and help Uber become safer. The question is, now that we've showed them or given them many, many ways, suggestions, strategies on how to become safer, are they acting on it? Are they spending money on it? Right? And then you say Dara doesn't know how. I'm losing you here, Payman. Dara is the leader of the company. He's the CEO. People, his field managers, everyone reports to him, right? This is management, top to bottom management, right? So whoever's underneath him in second tier, third tier, middle management, whatever, you report up. Dara is fully aware that issues could come up with minors. Dara is fully aware that they don't have background checks on passengers, but only pretty lax, loose background checks on drivers. Dara is aware that pool is an accident waiting to happen. he very much knows that in California alone, there's 5 or 6 different gangs, right? So no, he's not. Dara is not a manager. Dara is the CEO, Payman Ali. He's the top dog. He has managers underneath him. He is the person that makes the biggest decisions each day, or should make the biggest decisions. He's not just a manager. He is the face, the chief executive operator, CEO, not a manager. He's the CEO of the company, Payman. James Hand says he's a $44 million manager. He should be able to do some things right, serve what he earns. Part of his skill set is to manage people. But folks, he is not the manager of the company. He's the chief executive officer, right? Right on top, along with the president and the shareholders in the upper echelon. He has to know what happens all the way down the structures. He's constantly getting reports, daily reports. How is our European market doing? How are we doing in South America? Reading tons and tons of data and reading reports, and then passing down instructions to managers as the CEO. To a very large degree, he does manage these individuals, but he is not a classic manager, a branch manager. He is, say it again, the chief executive officer of this company. And as Billy Sam correctly says, he is an idiot. There it is. I'm not shy to say it. Tomorrow, folks, I'm at the Uber Hub in Los Angeles. And I decide tomorrow, based on a second round of meetings with them, whether I move forward and move my case into arbitration. I have zero time for Dara K. And I hope he knows that. The focus right now, while we're still up, while we can get the word out, is to get all eyes on the road. Look out for a baby seat. Look out for a baby seat being taken out of a car. Look and see if you can get your eyes and connect with this picture here. Can you see or identify this little girl in these early morning hours, right? Immediately take action and call authorities. And again, if you're the person that abducted this child, whatever your intentions are, just return the child back safely. You know, the worst case scenario is this little child gets harmed. You can make a decision right now. If this child is in your hands, in your control, turn yourself in. The worst thing that's going to happen to you is that you're going to do a jail sentence. But you have the ability to save this little child and return her back home. Do the right thing, please, whoever has this kid. Thank you. I will need that tomorrow, Bill. I expect a lot of opposition because they know that I'm going for them. Our actions, Payman, are not directed by anger. Our actions, suggestions are steered and governed by failures, repetitive failures, right? That would lead to such a sad story, right? Have we been upset with his management style? Beyond tonight, absolutely. It's very well documented in many, many channels, in many newspaper releases around the country, that he's an underperformer and just looking out for his executive branch. He has not produced profits for his company. So right now you can't classify him as some top dog CEO. That's not who he is, right? And, Gary says we are angry, and you absolutely have the right to own that emotion. If Gary is angry at the executives, he will have his reasons why he is, Payman, right? You may feel like it's your duty as a driver to protect the upper umbrella, the executives, and not put too much blame on them. I can tell you there's many people in this channel, including myself, who have a very, very different take on Dara, who are very disappointed in the leadership of Dara. And if my predictions are right, he's gone before year's end. Life in Vegas says no more shared rides, no more. I'm with you on that. I stand with you on that. I cancel all of them. Thank you, Rideshare Professor from Vegas. Thank you for sharing that with me. I appreciate your decision on that topic, and I understand why. I truly understand why. Payman Ali says, I think what happened here is bigger than just Uber. This is bigger than Uber, but when a cancer develops, when a virus develops inside the body, inside a company, it has an origin. And the reason why cancer breaks out in the human body is a breakdown of multiple things. And you can really compare it to a company, that if there's a virus, if there's a cancer in a company, if there's underperformance, if there's loss after loss after loss, you start looking at the company from all angles and say, where do we, sort of like an eagle approach, you look down at all the departments within the company, where can we identify the origin of the cancer? In my eyes, it's my opinion that we have no leadership in Uber. And if the shareholders could do the correct thing, the true power players, they kick him out. They send him out into the dark, right? And bring in what I call true and competent leadership. And another statement I will fully agree with, No Boss Lifestyle says, trust me, whatever penalty that these rideshare companies will have to pay will undoubtedly be passed on to the drivers. Now, that's not just a loose statement. That statement, I think, was very, very well thought out and based on a history of actions, right? Because Uber, time and time again, very, very common, skeletons come out in the media. You would hear they did this and this and this. They were busted. They're paying major legal fees, major settlements, more settlements, more settlements, more settlements. And all of those deficits, all of those payouts had to be made up. How do you make them up? You get very, very creative with your labor force and find ways how to extract money and make more money for the company, sadly, on the backs of drivers to fill those deficits. Those mistakes executives have made, and they knew at some stage it's going to catch up with them. And there's a laundry list out there. So, I'm just saying, the history is there. The washing line with all the dirty laundry, it's right there, flapping in the wind. I see it, and many other people see it. Paymanali says, don't expect any leadership from Uber. I don't expect any leadership from Uber because I've never seen any leadership from Uber. I've never seen any true, competent leadership from Uber or Lyft. Same goes for Logan Green. All I've seen is, how do we, instead of making 5 billion, how could we possibly make 6 billion, 5.5 billion for myself as, one of these founders or shareholders, right? Very ego-driven, very greed-driven, very selfish thinking, with a lot of shareholders that are expecting. Richard, what happened to the kid? The kid got abducted. It's a crazy, crazy, crazy story. The driver, Uber driver, her name is Sharina Nancy. She says the kid was sold for $10,000. Now, this lady participated in the delivery of the baby in the car seat to other parties that were in an SUV and handed the child over. The father says when he ended the trip, he got out the car, and the driver took off with the baby, 2 years old. He then called 911. This driver admits, and she's in jail right now. Her hearing's on September the 16th. I'm sure she'll have legal representation by then. But she says that she facilitated the delivery of the child in the baby seat to these two strangers, and that the cash, the transaction amount was $10,000. Isn't that sad? You're going to sell this little baby off for 10 grand? Really? You're going to participate in that? Wow. Can't have a heart, can't have a soul if you're going to take this little child and hand her over. You're an accomplice in a $10,000 deal selling a child. April M, very valid question. Do they really do criminal background checks on drivers? I think they do the very, very minimum. I know, having worked with multiple investigators and very successful investigators here in Los Angeles, Hammer and Star, on several cases, also from my Army days, is that you have different levels of background checks, right? I think your very simple Uber and Lyft background check with Checker costs a couple of dollars, and it gives you very, very limited information. You can go very deep, even on a 50-state level. You can go on a national and international level if you have reports from Interpol flowing into these reports. And now you're talking hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on background checks, right? So it depends how many levels deep they check. And you're right, Thomas. Aquinas. So the Amber Alert must have gone out at, I guess, 5 p.m. That's when the father made the first 911 calls that the child was abducted. He said the driver took off with the child. Obviously, the authorities then put out the Amber Alert. The driver, Nancy, if I have the story correct, was stopped in a roadblock at 7:30 p.m., 2.5 hours later. And that was basically because the information went out, the Amber Alert went out, right? Lyft was also contacted by it. I found Lyft's response rather sad. They, instead of like focusing on the child and say, hey, how can we help? How can we get the message out? They just said, this incident didn't happen on Lyft's platform. Really? So you're more concerned about your image, that it didn't happen on your platform? Aren't you concerned that there's a child missing? That's the wrong answer by a communications manager. If that was my communications manager, I'd fire her, right? The story is you get a question and say, how can we help? How can we assist in bringing this child back? And maybe 3-4 minutes later, we do know it didn't happen on our platform. But to come out and say that, wow, Dana Davis, you are truly trying to protect your image. So Uber Eats, I've only been driving for 10 months, but what does this piece of shit driver and a very suspicious story have to do with how the company is being run? I'll give you my answer loud and clear, right? I think it has a lot to do with the way the company is being run. And here's my reason why. If people don't agree with me, that's fine, right? The company knows, is fully aware that minors are being funneled through their cars, through the rideshare system by their drivers. They know that, right? And they let that slip by because it's money, right? It's parents booking cars for minors, which is illegal in the rideshare business. So they know that, right? So what has Uber and Lyft done to plug those holes? In my opinion, you would be doing sting operations in multiple cities, having a task team in Pennsylvania, in LA. That's where you got to spend the money. That's where they are not spending the money, Uber Eats Pro. This is where they are failing. Got to go out there and identify and fire drivers that are funneling children through rideshare, but they're not doing that. They're allowing it to slip through. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Let's make money. The money is more important. The issue, the safety, the regulations, the laws on minors, I say they're turning a blind eye. So you want to hear my answer? Incompetent leadership from the top, not acting on the laws, not putting task teams in the field, right? Not clamping down on drivers that are driving minors around. You have a minor in your car, don't set yourself up for this problem, right? You have a choice. You know it's wrong. But to many drivers, it's tempting. For Uber and Lyft, the companies, it's tempting. We didn't see that minor get into that car. Truly, I didn't see that minor get into that car. James Hand says Uber is so dysfunctional. Look, If you've been driving for Uber for 10 months, right? Been following the stories, you've heard the history, you've communicated with drivers, you're participating in live streams. After everything you've heard, after everything you've seen, after everything you have read in the media, do you truly in your heart of hearts think both companies have competent leadership? I've seen enough. And I've managed companies, and I've seen other people manage companies, and I work with extremely successful people that manage their companies, and I've never seen this shit happen. I've never seen such poor leadership, right? Overpaid people not bringing results. There we go. Been driving for 5 months and know this exactly. I mean, these are the basic management fundamentals that you learn at business school, right? I don't see any of those fundamentals right here. Eurodriver says, though both are prohibited, there is a difference between taking a 16-year-old home from school and delivering a 6-year-old to an address. There is a difference. There's a big difference there. You're right. Right? The one you should automatically know is a no-no. And with the other one, that 16-year-old in your eyes could easily pass as an 18-year-old, could easily lie to you and said, I am 18, I just don't have my ID with me, or I do have my driver's license. And face value, you believe the 16-year-old. So there's a lot of validity in that statement, I think, that there is a fundamental difference whether you have a 6-year-old in your car or a 16-year-old in your car. You got to make choices, right? I think the choice for the 6-year-old in your car, tiny little toddler, or this little 2-year-old is very easy. It does not belong in your car. Yeah, I mean, LA Fat Joe says Uber leaders don't care because they know it's eventually going to collapse. The only thing they care about is how to scam investors' money as fast as they can. And hey, if you're getting that type of salary, you might as well milk the cow, right? Payman Ali says, I'm not defending Uber. I'm saying in a case like this, it appears the driver is at fault, not Uber. And the driver, you are 100% correct, is 100% at fault, is 100% guilty. There's no doubt about it. But how did it get there, right? Where are the plugs? Where are the mechanisms in place that stop this happening? And that starts on top. And if you have a cancer on the top, it just manifests and grows. So people like Nancy think they can get away with this. So your statement is completely correct, Payman Ali, but I do think the issue is far bigger, right? That the way it's set up, the way it's managed, these things will happen over and over again. People will get assaulted over and over again. Women will get raped over and over again. And murders and deaths will happen over and over again unless you start plugging the holes, putting the money into safety and security, making the right executive decisions, and showing leadership. So this doesn't happen again. Why is the Security Exchange Commission not investigating Lyft and Uber? Well, I think it has a lot to do with, it's just my opinion again on this one. who's leading the country and which people have been put in place to oversee these institutions. You know, if it's an incestuous nest of the wealthy getting wealthier, or the wealthy covering for the wealthy, or the wealthy getting the tax cuts, then, you know, you take care of each other. You turn a blind eye. You allow the shit to go through. Or you have proper laws and regulations in place that work. To me right now, it's a shit show. It's an absolute shit show. Thomas says, one step ahead of the litigation, state regulations, and eventually driver demands, they assume they can stay a step ahead and continue to survive and grow. And a lot of it has caught up with them. But I'm not disagreeing with your statement. I agree with you, Payman. Having said that, Payman says, I'd love to see a change in management. That's what I'm hoping for. You know, I'm hoping that if you're getting that type of money, you bring $42 million of value each year, right? And your heart's in the right place. You have executives, you have your laborers, your workers, your drivers. Should be, in my eyes, should be a team. Should be proud working for your company, right? Should be looking up and respecting your CEO. You know, I got to say, when I was in Europe studying, part of my studies were at the university, and then a trainee program, and then having to work through an actual corporate company, and eventually meeting the CEO. I went in there with a lot of respect because this guy was managing 35,000 people, and he was doing a brilliant job at it, right? And I had a lot of admiration and respect for this CEO based on his performance, based on the way he treated people. So I'd go in with a suit, firm handshake. It's an honor to meet you, sir, right? Just showing respect because I think that person deserved the respect. Firstly, I would never ever dress up for Dara K if I got invited in for a meeting. I don't think I would shake his hand. I disrespect him on every level because I feel like he's let down our family of drivers on every level. Why would I look up to him? Why would I even want to shake the person's hand? Zero intentions. I am, Richard. You should know it. If you know me, you know my channel, you should know that I've already poured a lot of money into a startup. Thomas says, here is the point. These platforms have virtually no oversight into how they treat their workers. That has to change. Nobody's trying to shut Uber down. We're trying to survive as partners. And you're right, we're not trying to shut Uber down. We're trying everything in our capacity as a driver to work with them, to show them how to better the system, how to earn our respect, but they're not even listening to us. They're not even building bridges to us. They're not even inviting us in on these participations. When that term came out, you remember this term, 180 days of change? To me, it was 180 days of the same garbage and mistreatment, right? Uber Eats Pro says, if the company is properly run, for example, GOAT, would you charge new drivers acquisition costs, i.e. proper background checks, knowing the costs would weed out the shit. You have to. If you want to set up a company, I would say look at the mistakes that others have made. There's certain things that work. There's certain things that don't work, right? To a degree, a rating system both ways works, to a degree, right? I would say the pool platform definitely does not work out for drivers, only works out for the company. It definitely doesn't work out for passengers. Unfortunately, passengers still want to save a buck or two here and are prepared to get into a car with a complete stranger, right? You know, when I look at those things as an executive member of GOAT, right? I'm on that team. I have meetings and I say, what works, what doesn't work? I know how to identify 5-star drivers who are concerned about safety, who are concerned about the safety of their passengers. I have also interviewed enough passengers and clients to understand what their needs and wants are out of this industry. So if you can match up those qualities, for example, start matching up highly competent drivers, have passengers pay and participate in a background check. Hey, you can have access to the best of the best. Got to be willing to pay for a background check. Company has to absorb the cost of running a background check on the driver. The passenger has to say, if I want to be on this platform, if safety is my goal, if my goal is to always get the very best driver, I'm willing to step forward and show that I have no criminal background. I only want the best of the best matched up on both sides. I don't want any riffraff in this industry. There shouldn't be, because that's when things go wrong. Get your bicycle out, get your skateboard out, get your feet out, buy your bus ticket. But don't jump on a rideshare platform if your intentions are wrong and not sincere, right? So as a leader of a company, I think you have to seek out the very best qualities on both and match them up. And that's what I'm trying to do there. Here in the PA market, Lyft is charging surge to passengers and driver gets nothing at all, which is totally unfair. And personal power zone is a joke, as I rarely get them even during the day. Now, you and I know, most of the drivers in this channel know that Uber and Lyft are constantly testing and trying out different models. It's probably where they're spending the biggest part of their budget, right, is on beta testing, programming, engineering, new models and ways. How can they find ways based on data to maximize their efforts and their monies, right? Sadly, on the drivers' backs. It always gets taken away, the way I see it, from the drivers. Instead of saying, okay, these guys are paying nothing for 5 stars. They're paying nothing, these passengers. We have to start increasing the rates over here, right? We can easily bump it up 10, 15 to 20%. It wouldn't even harm the passenger one bit. But what do? They get creative, find ways how they can cheat you out in the power zones and manipulate the surge, and whatever they do, they have access to data, right? It's for us to figure out, like, on the day, on the week, how are they cheating us? So Thomas says, this weekend I took a group of college kids up the street. They paid Uber $130. I'm sure it was more than up the street. I got $70. So you made a little bit more than 50% there. These kids were getting effed by Uber through surge pricing, and so aren't as I as the driver. Well, if they are using the heat patterns, right, for example, they're doing this in a lot of markets right now. It was just implemented now in August, these heat patterns to draw the drivers to busy areas, saying, hey, we'll show you where it's surging. We'll show you where it's getting hotter. Come this way. We can bump up the price. The question is, are they still hitting the passenger with the high surges and not passing on part of that surge to the drivers? Are they changing their ways once again? Back in the day, it was very, very clear that if you were at an event, a concert or a sports event where demand was extremely high at one given point in a 30-minute bracket, and the supply of drivers just could not match the demand, the surge would go through the roof. I can only say, look at Coachella concert, right? There were high surges. The passengers understood there is such a thing as supply and demand. Were willing to share those costs with multiple individuals in the car and said, it's okay, we'll take the surge, right? We'll take the hit. And a big part of that money was passed on to the driver. Today, it's so convoluted in the way the pricing system is laid out that you literally have to study and restudy this each time, right? Constantly changing, confusing us. This drop-off fee, this pickup fee, this minute fee. I mean, they are changing the algorithms weekly, trying to confuse the heck out of drivers. Now, it's our job and our duty to digest those numbers, to look at those screens, look at those results and saying, how much is the passenger actually paying here? How much is the company actually getting? And what is ending up in my pocket? What am I getting at the end of the day, right? And they are getting more and more creative to create murky waters and with the hopes that we don't quite understand and can take these numbers apart so that we stay in the dark and just sort of accept what they offer us, right? And it changes all the time. These models, these engineers must be working around the clock conducting beta tests in this market, another set of beta tests in this market. At the end of the day, where does the company get the maximum profits from, right? And you and I know we're constantly trying to figure this out. We're constantly trying to figure out, what are they doing to us today? What is going on in the Chicago market today? Why did they take this away in this market today? Why did they implement this new set of rules in this market today? I mean, it's exhausting, folks. The amount of emails and texts I get on a daily basis, it's exhausting, right? Now, we're past 12:30. We're on a Tuesday on the West Coast. I hope the first drivers are getting up in Pennsylvania and seeing this and keeping their eyes open, right? Keeping their eyes open. This was the driver that abducted the child. This is the little kid. This little one is Nalani Johnson. She's 2 years old. Please take a picture of this child. Take a picture and take a screenshot. So as you are driving around there tomorrow in these neighborhoods, right? Allegheny County. Let me see, can I get some other address here or some other beacons? Gas station Monroeville, US Route 22, Penn Hills, Pennsylvania. Anywhere around these locations, anywhere, 20, 30, 60 minutes from these locations that I've just mentioned, keep your eyes and ears open. If you are the individual that has this little child in your possession right now, do the right thing. Go down to the authorities and go down to the police and say, sorry, I want to return this child. I've done wrong, right? And by doing that, you're starting to head in that right direction. Turn yourself in. Do not harm this little kid. Bring this little child back so she can be reunited with her parents, right? She's 2 years old. She has no idea what's happening right now. There's just absolute trauma and confusion in this little child's brain right now. I have 2 children. I know about this stuff, right? So return this child. Do the right thing, please. Everybody else in that market, in those locations, in those neighborhoods, keep an eye open. Keep an eye open for a baby seat that's maybe removed from a car that possibly has this child in it. This SUV that this driver handed this kid over, at some point, it's out of state. It might be traveling back to that state, right, to another state. So if you're on the road, I'm sure there'll be many roadblocks looking for this SUV. But if you're taking a break and you're at a gas station and you happen to check on the news because you know cops are after you and you come across these stories, if you have this little child, do the right thing, man. Just bring her back. Just please bring the child back. And if you're a driver, like D. Robert says, call 911. Anything that looks suspicious, anytime you see, look, if you have 2 vehicles and a baby seat and a child is passed from one vehicle to the other vehicle, that is already extremely suspicious, right? It does happen a lot between divorced parents. Maybe, custody ends and they hand over this child in the baby seat to the parent. But still, just look out for these type of incidents, right? Where you might see a child seat and a little toddler in it being passed to another individual or be taken out of a car. If you see something like that happen, look. Go close. Don't be shy. Drive up, look. Maybe you see this little angel. Payman Ali, I need some rest as well. I was actually going to bed at 10 p.m. I had a long, long day, and then Eduardo Alvarez sends me this shocking, alarming news, and I think, you know what, I can't go to bed right now. Ernesto Alvarez sent me this email. I cannot go to bed. I've got to make a video on this, and we're 1 hour 30 into the video. The only reason why I'm staying awake and then trying to keep the conversation going is I'm hoping that Pennsylvania drivers are starting to wake up, maybe come across my live feed and then start being active, circulating the videos, and start being on the lookout that we can hopefully make a difference and bring this kid back home. Yeah. I have no time for Uber Pool, man. I have zero time for it. When I looked at 2 good friends that were making a lot of money leasing out cars, this is years and years back, and good friends, and explained the business to me, and I said, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to get into the business as well, and if you could teach me a few things. So I got a lot of information from them, and I figured if you want to know a business, you got to go and do the business, right? I mean, you can't be a mechanic and you've never worked on a motorbike or on a car. End of story, right? So you got to go out and maybe get your platforms going. You got to start off with UberX. You got to learn the ins and outs. And then when I started having the first pool trips, I thought, oh my God, this is a disaster. You're not making money, and this is an accident waiting to happen. And there was a fine evening where I drove 2 completely different parties from downtown LA to the Valley, and it almost ended horribly. And I said to myself, never, ever again will I do a pool. And the only way for me to completely get out of that was like, I just jumped 2-3 categories up, right? I went into the SUV, Lux categories, black categories, where pool was just not there. And thank God it wasn't there, because I was done with pool. And so when I started learning all the ins and outs about the SUV and Lux business, that's when I started with the whole fleet thing. And that's the area that I like to be in, right? I do not want to ever, I would never request a pool. Firstly, I'm not a cheap ass trying to get out to save a buck or two by taking a pool. And I have seen firsthand what all the negatives are on pool, right? And there's no incentive for me to take a pool trip. Nothing. I do not want to get into the car with a complete stranger that I don't know. I don't even know if he's armed or where he's from or if he belongs to a gang or if he's on drugs. No idea. Nor do I ever want to tempt that situation. So it's easy. I don't order pools. I don't give pools. Period. It is. Thomas, it's true. The SUV Lux and that is one of the only guarantees for getting pretty decent passengers. It really is. Of course it can be. Pool can be used by 2 people to hijack a car very easily, right? You can think of all the worst case scenarios. The very, very worst case scenario played out the other day. 2 pool people get in the car. The one guy was on PCP, fully drugged up, killed the driver, killed the other pool passenger. That's the worst case scenario right there. You only have 3 people in the car, with 1 killer and 2 dead people. Well, doesn't get worse than that. So if you want to think worst case scenario, that's it right there. It played out the other day. And after that, like I say, decline pool. Nobody can force you to do pool based on what just happened. Yeah. There we go. Got to take action. Look out for yourself. You are important. Robert H. says pool needs to be removed from these platforms. Pool riders never, ever tip. They will never tip because that's why they get the pool, is to save the tip and to save more. And also there are so many problems with pool passengers. I'm no longer accepting pools, as I learned the hard way. And I can mirror what you say, Robert, as I also learned the hard way. Never again. And if they deactivate you over pool, that's their argument. Oh, you didn't accept pool rates? They have a problem. You go straight to arbitration and say, hey, they didn't create a safety net. In fact, there was a driver killed. Why should I be subjected to that? Why should I be subjected to PTSD? Not worth it. Yeah, I can tell you, anyone that's driven for more than 2 years has got some crazy horror story to tell, right? And usually we're lucky that we got away. Had 3 of these incidences over all the years, and just learned not to tempt a worst case scenario. Not going to do it. How do I file arbitration against Uber? You can look it up online. That's what I'm currently busy doing. You want to find an arbitrator that hasn't done too many Uber and Lyft cases, because that's usually a red flag. That means they work with Uber and Lyft, and usually they'll be more favorable towards them. You want to get a completely fresh, independent arbitrator and bring the case to them. And these things in arbitration get resolved quickly. Now, it's not like in the court system where you have a jury. There's no jury. Like with arbitration, there's no jury. That's why it's just a It's a quick shortcut to fast results. And in the legal system, at least in the superior courts of the cities, where a jury will ultimately decide on the fate, the judge can hit the companies with massive punitive damages, extra damages. That's not the case as an arbitration. So that's why Uber and Lyft favor arbitration, quick settlement, maybe settling it out of court for little money, right? They don't get these big punitive damages that they have to pay out in arbitration. So, sure, I'm ready. Payment, hit me with a tip. I'm tired. Long day. I'm sure they do. I'm sure there are many creepy men out there that use pool to stalk women. Very true, Uber Eats. Payment, hit me with your tip because I'm out of here soon, guys. I've been going for 1 hour, been keeping this alive for 90 minutes. I go get up super, super early. Jury trials must be preserved in civil matters for amounts over $20. I think you mean $25,000. Look, if you have a case up to $10,000, you're going to go to a small claims court, right? As soon as you go over the $10,000, usually there's a little place on the paperwork that you mark in the court papers. When you're filing in superior court, it says $25,000, right? And it becomes a superior court matter. Means it will go before a judge. You can make your amendments, and you go through a long, long discovery process, and ultimately might be heard by a jury. What are you saying here? Say, so although they want to force you to use arbitration, you should demand a jury trial. I don't think from what I know, and unless you have a strong legal background, Payment, that you can demand a jury trial in arbitration, right? That's the whole thing, is that you're bypassing that. It's why an arbitrator comes in and resolves the matter so it doesn't go before a jury. Dewey Fisher, how are you? What are you basing this on? Are you basing this on your experience, or is this a hypothetical that you're hoping for? Do you have concrete proof of cases? Bring me a case. Case would be this company versus this company, right? And usually something is set in stone if the company wins it on appeal, right? Appeal cases are very hard to overturn. But I am not following you, Payment, here with this $20 thing and Supreme Court and arbitration. The way the system is set up is that you cannot get to Uber and Lyft through the superior court. So the Supreme Court is on a whole different level. It's nothing to do with this right here. Nothing. I think you're meaning superior court, not Supreme Court, right? There's different levels. So you cannot get to them through superior court because you have signed an arbitration clause, which means whatever case you're bringing immediately goes before an arbitrator. I will ask an attorney about that. To what level can you rise arbitration? But I'm curious now. Appreciate that, Robert H. Superior Court, or Supreme Court is the highest, and very few cases go to the Supreme Court. That's a fact, right? It's a very small panel of 9 Supreme Court judges that rule on big matters, right? But Superior Court, very easy to bring a case. I've done several, and you can get things resolved between spending $30,000 and $80,000, right? Depending on your relationship with an attorney. Now you can also go and represent yourself in Superior Court, which means I'm acting in pro persona. I'm representing myself. Lawyers will advise you against that. If you have a strong background, a legal background, or you are a paralegal, there are many paralegals that can and will go out there if they've been wronged and represent themselves, right? Because they understand how to research papers, research the law, and draw up papers. But you could become even more famous. I have no intention of becoming famous for trying to find ways to get my matter up to Supreme Court. No. I care about the drivers. I care about the fact that these companies are withholding thousands and thousands of my dollars and not paying me out, and looking for every excuse to not pay me out, and for every excuse not to pay other drivers out. So if I can make an impact there, if I can leverage media, and this, my friends, if you do this the correct, smart, quick way, you get the media involved right away, or you at least threaten them with the media and show them your media contacts, right? Usually things get resolved pretty quickly. You're a notary, which is cool. I like that. You work for the courts. I like that too. So the question is, you're a notary at the courts, or you're a notary, you notarize papers that in court. What exactly is your position there, Payman? And have you seen firsthand evidence and proof of such things happening? Because, I mean, here you're talking about courts now. I'm talking about the fact that they are forcing you to arbitration, right? Do you have firsthand evidence of cases that can literally bypass arbitration, and you force them into higher courts? Then I'll call you. I'll speak to you. I'll get on the phone with you in the next 2 days. Uh, 100%. I do know that, yeah. Correct. Forced arbitration. I would guess jurisdiction is based on where you drive, based on where you entered the contract. Keeping the picture up here, so anybody tuning in right now, this little kid was abducted, right? A Uber driver was involved in the delivery of this little kid. Apparently $10,000 exchanged hands. Driver charged in missing Pennsylvania Toddler case, says child was sold for $10,000. That's the police report. That's the story. This woman here, this Uber driver, Sharina Nancy, who confesses that She was part in delivering this child, right? Now the question is, to what degree is she involved in this abduction, right? Right now, she's in jail. So everything points to the fact that she's guilty. I'm going back here. I'm interested in that. Well, which, if you're in LA County, which jurisdiction would you want to, which jurisdiction would you be pushing it into, right? Yeah, right. Jurisdiction is based on where you live, correct. So why would I want to force this into a different jurisdiction? I'd want to bring my argument right here because all my evidence is on my doorstep. All my visits to the hub is at my doorstep. So I would like to force arbitration right here in LA County. Why not? So you say you're going down to a county civil court and you are opening up an arbitration case there. Is that what you're saying? Is that possible? If I were to go down there tomorrow, either let's say to the one on Hill Street, the Superior Court, or the one in Van Nuys, off Van Nuys Boulevard, to that court, I would go into the county civil court and find the department that handles arbitration matters. Is that what you're saying? Guys, I'm going to wrap it up. It's coming to 1 hour 45. I've tried to keep this story as alive as long as possible. We're about 1 a.m. West Coast, 4 a.m. East Coast. So the drivers are waking up over there to this horrific story. So be on the lookout for this little girl. Be on the lookout for a baby seat that's maybe passed around from car to car with this little one in it. I follow you, Payman. I follow you. I follow you. Yeah, I see that. I completely understand your chain of thought right now. There was a missing link, and you gave it to me there, right there. Yeah. Yeah. No. I'm not shy to spend money on good attorneys getting good results. So I'd prefer it goes to a trial. It's easier for me to get evidence, through demands, requests for admissions, etc. I've done it, right? So yes, I fully agree with you that that's a great option, is to, force the issue, force the complaint against Uber, saying that they're trying to keep you in arbitration, but where you actually want to go is towards a civil trial. I get it. Correct. So you're saying tell Uber you don't want to go through arbitration? Why would Uber agree to that? Uber says you've signed a clause that says you will arbitrate. You probably have to convince the court that this should not go to arbitration, but should rather go to a jury trial, right? Yeah, this news is horrible, Tim Olson. We're trying to stay awake as long as possible and bring awareness to this little kid. If you have this child in your possession, if you are part of the deal abducting this child, do the right thing. Take the child down to the authorities and hand this little girl over. Do the right thing, please. Don't harm this child. I fully 100% agree with you on that payment, Ali. I think forced arbitration is unconstitutional. I 100% agree with you there. Tell the courts that. Okay, that's good. It's good to know. Very, very good advice there. I learned a lot there. If you can, guys, share the story, Facebook it, tweet it, whatever social media accounts you have. Maybe, just maybe, we can reach out to the right driver who sees something suspicious and recognizes this little angel's face. She's 2 years old. Her name is Nalani Johnson. And I just beg every Uber and Lyft driver in Allegheny County, I hope I'm saying that right, in Penn Hills, Pennsylvania, or let me give you another location here, a gas station, Monroeville. That's where this child was apparently handed over by the driver, who willingly participated in this delivery. Awful, awful stuff. Another address that is mentioned in this article, maybe you could keep a lookout there, Route 22 in Pennsylvania. If these names say something, mean something, these addresses, these locations, be on the lookout. I don't know this area, but all I can do is maybe make people aware in this area that they should be on the lookout for this little girl. She's very easy to recognize, just a little bundle of love. Look at her there. So help bring her back. Payman Ali, thank you. Thank you for the 20 people in the room right now that are that have stuck through the story. I know we've been here for a long time, but again, you know why we kept the story alive for as long as possible. So I wish you all a good night. I hope you had a restful Labor Day and you didn't labor too much. If you know anyone in this market, Pennsylvania, shoot them a message. Maybe take a screenshot of this little kid, shoot it to a driver that you may know in that market, and maybe they can make the difference, right? I appreciate you guys. I wish you peaceful sleep. I wish you a good start tomorrow on Tuesday. May it be productive. Stay healthy. Get rest. Make good money. Work smart. If you need any help, reach out to me, Rideshare Professor. My email, my number are below. If you've got good stories, do share them. Maybe we can help, right? Sharing a story quickly in a timely fashion could save a life. So Ernesto Alvarez, thank you for doing that. Thank you for shooting me an email just before midnight as I was going to bed. Peace out, my friends. Wish you all a good night. Thank you. And again, let me just leave you with this last image. This is her, right? I've already taken a picture of this little girl with the hopes that if somebody needs it, I can forward it. See that? Gives me a little bit of a better indicator who she is, right? Pretty curly, fluffy hair. Hey, look who's in the house. Good morning, Thomas. Thomas, I'm about to go to bed, dude. I appreciate you. How are you? This is a sad one, Thomas. This is a sad one. You will not believe the story. Oof. Crazy one. Tim Olson, thank you. Aloha, Hawaii. Auntie Uber, good to see you. I've never seen you. Have you been in our room before, Auntie Uber? I like the name. Which island? Big Island, Oahu, Honolulu, where are you? Where are you making money? What are you driving? Curious. I think Excel's still the hottest category on the islands. Kauai, fantastic. Thomas, Are you working through the night? Or are you heading to bed? What are you doing, Thomas? Hey, Payman, Rockstar, appreciate you, my friend. And you know, the only reason why I engage early on to try and get conversation going is that other people chime in and we get the best, right? So never take anything personal that I say. I like to mix it up. I like to get conversations going, and you really helped getting a lot of these conversations going in the right direction. San Diego Rideshare Pro, Thomas Gibson, good friend of mine, says he's back from LAX. Yes, you sent me screenshots of that horrible mess at LAX. Yeah, that sort of came as no surprise, Thomas, because you know, it's the end of this weekend, so like a lot of people are flying back from Vegas. A lot of people are flying back. You know, they've been gone for a few days, so tonight LAX must have been busy. I caught LAX at a great time today. I did a 1 p.m. drop off, and I just sailed straight through. It was quick as quick could be. I got off at Howard Hughes, drove down Sepulveda, entered the airport, merged with the Century traffic, shot up the departures ramp, circled around, crossed over 5-6, zipped in the outside lane, dropped off at Air Canada, and I was out in record time. But I knew that in the evening, I had no idea that you were going to go there, Thomas, but I said, oh my God, thank God I don't have any drop-off or pickups tonight at LAX, so it must be a nightmare. And then my buddy down in San Diego, Thomas, the San Diego Rideshare Pro, look him up, subscribe to him. He then texts me a message of a screenshot in LA. He's just outside of LA, and it was a horrendous wait time to get into LA. So, you know, that airport will rob you of nerves and time. Awful. They say it's one of the most poorly designed airports in the world. LAX sucks. LAX, SUX. LAX sucks. Righty. Everyone get the word out. Take a picture of this. Memorize, look out for this little button here. Cute as a button, this little angel. Let's get her back home safely, okay? And I appreciate you guys. Peace out. Sweet dreams, everyone. Thanks, Thomas.